The way you see yourself determines everything. I mean, if you think of yourself as someone who struggles to follow through, well, typically that's exactly what happens. So if you decide that you're someone who takes action and really stays consistent, that identity, it's going to drive your success. So here's the thing. Most people, they try to change their habits without shifting how they see themselves. And I hear this all the time from people that they'll get started, they'll get going, but they wait until they think something's going to happen. They think they're going to self-sabotage, or they're waiting for something to give to where they drift off course. And some even they'll push to use willpower. And deep down, while they're doing that, they see themselves as somebody who quits. They won't say that they're a master quitter, but they've gotten so good at quitting that they become a master quitter, especially when things get hard. The thing is, that mindset, it makes it easy to fall off track, especially when the moment of life or the many moments of life gets busy, gets crazy wild, gets intense. So if you are wanting lasting results, then you need more than a goal. A mentor of mine, I love how she says this. A goal is not to get, a goal is to grow. And if you think of it that way, let's say your goal is to lose some weight or get in shape, or be a certain size, or be ready to take on adventures of life. If that is it, I encourage you to really pay attention to the journey, to grow along the way. See, a lot of times people give this goal this little deadline type of thing where it's like, okay, it's got to be 30 pounds. But what's it going to enable you to do? You need to become the person who follows through no matter what as you're growing. You need to change the way you think about yourself. And the reason why you do that is so that your actions become so automatic that, for me, a guy who was a 2-pack-a-day smoker, I put a 1 there, 2-pack-a-day smoker, and a guy that drank tons of Mountain Dew. Pizza was the main food group. Is that a group? Yeah, it's a group of food, right? On one crust. And so that's the way I saw myself. But my actions, I wanted to get healthy. I wanted to get fit. My actions were not automatic. And to see that now and go, wow, it's just automatic for me to get into the gym, to do that, to grow, go grocery shopping, buy healthy foods, take control of my. I had to shift who I was, how I thought about myself, how I thought about the things that I was doing moving forward. We're going to talk about that today. Before we get into all this great mindset shift, head over to talktoperry.com. This is for people who are serious about leveling up. You, podcast listeners, podcast watchers, and I want to help you recharge your battery. And when I say that, I'm talking about your mental and your physical battery. Because so many of us, we go about life like we are a 6-year-old smartphone with 2% battery life and no charger in sight. And I want to help you reclaim your power. I want to help you totally level up, get clear on what it is that you're going after, your goals, your next steps. I mean, how would your life look different if your mental and physical battery was running at 100% instead of 2%? TalkToPerry.com. I'm dropping it in the lower third there. If you don't know what that is, well, you're probably listening to the podcast. It's a visual thing that I put on the screen, okay? So let's talk about deciding who you want to be. If you're stuck in this same pattern, where you're like on this thing until you're off this thing, and then you keep negotiating with yourself and saying, well, I got to get back on the wagon. And then you procrastinate a long runway of time before you actually get on the wagon until you realize that you're probably going to fall off again. And you'll probably chalk it up to say, well, life got busy. Well, I had a vacation. Well, I had this thing. And you give it all up to external circumstances. Instead of getting radically honest with yourself and taking responsibility, well, when you start to ask yourself, who do I need to become to get that result that I want? It's not about changing your personality. You keep that. It really is just stepping into a version of yourself that already exists, but it's buried under self-doubt, worries, fears, hesitation. So if you want to be fit, this does take a bit of practice here. If you want to be fit, you got to start thinking like someone who takes care of their body. And that's one of the things realized when I was starting my journey, and I was negotiating with myself to talk myself out of working out, to make up for it on the weekends, to all this, and I would rationalize certain foods, and I'd be like, well, it's not necessarily bad for me, but it's not really good for me. I'll stay in the middle, you know, a bagel, but it's a plain bagel, and I'd say, I would have, burger, but I would eat only half the bun, I would negotiate that sort of thing. Um, and say, well, I'm eating healthier. It's kind of like when people will say, well, I drink soda, but it's diet soda. Okay. Um, and you convince yourself and you get really good at that story. And I realized I wasn't taking responsibility for it. I was just playing it safe. I was taking some action, but not really the action of who I needed to be. So I had to start, visualizing and advancing forward here and saying, okay, that ideal person that I keep saying I want to be, and I started labeling, or not labeling, but identifying the behaviors, the habits, the characteristics, the belief, the self-talk. And those things would automatically come up. I'd beat myself up, or I'd try to talk myself out of it. But I started becoming aware of it. And I'd be like, no, that's not me. That's not who I am. Now a little voice in my head would be, yes, it is. We practice this all our life. Of course, this is who we are. But I started to identify with, instead of being in the present and thinking about the past, I started thinking about the future, the present, future. I started to look that person in the future. I started doing those habits now instead of waiting till the future, which seems so abstract and far away. And I started acting like somebody who doesn't negotiate with excuses. Now, this did take practice, and that's what I'm encouraging you. It's not like something that just happens overnight. It does have this little period of time where it's like you're training yourself. But if you want to be confident, well, you need to start making decisions like a confident person. And if you haven't done that in a long time, it can seem so weird. It can seem so like, wow, that's not us. And so for me, that 2-pack a day smoker, Mountain Dew pizza, Mountain Dew drinking, pizza eating guy, to go and show up for my workouts and all this stuff, how did that happen? It started by asking myself these questions. So I encourage you to ask yourself these questions. How does the best version of me show up daily? Now, you may have a knee-jerk reaction of like, well, we just don't show up. We do this. And you might joke it and slide it off. But that is you trying to protect yourself. You got to be radically honest with yourself, not to get on your own case, but just to say, is that behavior and that thinking and that attitude, is that helping me out? And if it's not, you can, if you want to joke about it, fine, but come back to what it is that you desire, and then ask yourself, what decisions would I make? What would I make if I already had those results? Now, because I hadn't been that person like forever, it seemed, that took some practice for me to get into that mindset. But I just kind of nurtured it, And as time went on, I started to have those experiences. I started to have those successes. I started to have those things that really was like, wow, okay, this is working. The other thing I was asking myself, especially as I was negotiating with myself, the reason why I'm doing my hands that way is I would try to negotiate with myself to get out of working out or whatever. But I had to ask myself, am I acting in alignment with that person I want to be, or am I making choices based on old habits? Ooh, that radical honesty was a big eye-opener, because that was evidence of me realizing that I was giving up my power to so many external things, and I was reasoning it and negotiating and rationalizing that, yeah, I am busy. Yeah, I am doing the German Shepherd rescue. Yeah, I do have all these other things, but I still wanted these goals. So it wasn't like I had to let those other things go. I just had to figure out, where am I trying to get myself off the hook, or as I call it, an escape hatch, and really get radically honest, take responsibility and saying, no, that's not me anymore. Confidence, it's built by doing. And you're going to fail from time to, you'll probably fail a lot. I don't want to say from time to time. You probably fail often. I know I did. But if you wait until you feel motivated, you're going to stay stuck. You might be motivated one day. Maybe you got motivated to join the gym. Maybe you got motivated to buy the treadmill to have at home. Maybe you got motivated to buy the really cool shoes that you're going to get out walking, and you got the smartwatch and all that stuff. But you still aren't taking action on it and using it to the way you wanted to use it. And that's the deal. And when you start showing up and you don't wait for motivation, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it, you start showing up. Those daily choices, those start to reinforce who you are, who you're wanting to be. And every time you show up, even when you've got the things that are maybe seem a little off track, you're proving to yourself that you're a person who follows through. Now, you might not say those words to yourself, but inside, that's what's happening. You're showing evidence and you're getting proof. And that's how it's building confidence. Then the identity change happens, okay? Not by thinking about it, although I love visualization. I think thinking it, but it's by acting on it. A friend of mine said the other day, and I think I said this on the podcast the other day, where it was 20 minutes of doing something is way better than 20 hours of thinking about doing something, right? So break that pattern of hesitation. If you're always waiting for that perfect moment, you're going to just stay in that cycle. I know people that do this all the time. They're just waiting. They're looking for evidence why they can't get started. They come back. They're about ready to start. They're waiting. Then something takes them off track, etc. The shift happens when you stop overthinking and you take action. Yeah, it sounds so simple. It is that simple. If you catch yourself debating whether or not you're going to work out, or you're going to eat better, or you're going to make that choices, or you're the healthy choice, or maybe you're going to follow through, and you catch yourself that, stop thinking, just do it. Man, Nike had like the most amazing slogan right there. Just do it. Because it applies. The more you hesitate, the more you reinforce the identity of someone who struggles to commit. There it is again. I wanted to get in shape. Something always happens. But the more you take action, even when those things come up, the more you reinforce the idea, that identity of someone who gets things done. And the more things start to shift in your behalf, the things that seem like they were wild and crazy and always in your way, all of a sudden you're navigating those big time. I used to go to a grocery store and I'd be tempted by all the little people on the end of the aisle. I want to sample this, want to get this. It's this, it's, fat free, whatever it is. No, that's not me. I'm very focused on what I go in and shop and get. If you want real change, stop waiting for motivation and just start becoming the person who takes action, because your results, they're always going to match that identity that you choose to step into. So why not just show up like the person who's already reached the goals, who already has what they want? That's how transformation happens. Deciding, committing to yourself and your goals, and taking action, and choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward instead of giving your power away and looking for excuses. You've got this, my friend. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness.
I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff, and we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.